So this next movement is going to be to initiate overhead or shoulder flexion. A lot of times it's one of the biggest problems that people have when they have any type of shoulder problem is lifting their arm up without getting discomfort, pinching, weakness of some kind. So starting off at a higher surface. So I'm going to use this bike, but this could be kitchen counter, table, anything like that. Just something to put my hands on. So hands here, I want to take my feet back away, okay? Enough so that when I go to do this movement, you'll see I end up in somewhat of a human L position. So starting off here, I'm going to let my butt go back as my head drops down. And I'm going to go to where I either feel tightness, it may be tightness in the back of my legs, or if you get any discomfort in the shoulder, you're going to stop. Now, from here, I'll pause maybe 5 seconds. Now I'm going to take the points of my elbows and very gently squeeze them or pinch them into my side. And that'll have me engage my tricep and some of the areas in my armpit a little bit. So as soon as I do that, I lightly squeeze my elbows and I put a little bit of pressure into my hands as I start to bring my hips back underneath me as I shift the weight from my feet back to my hands. So once again, dropping back slow. In this position, it's worth noting that I don't want my feet all the way up here to where I feel like I'm falling onto my heels. In the same token, I don't want it really far back to where I feel like don't have my feet underneath me. So I really want to feel like when I drop back, I end up with my feet underneath my hips. I describe this as like a human L position. So as soon as I get to where I feel either tension or even the slightest bit of discomfort, I very lightly pinch my elbows, press into my hands, and start to shift my weight from my feet back to my hands, noticing that my shoulder blades are not coming up like this, but actually sucking somewhat downward. Okay? And that's something I would do 10 to 20 times. Not really holding very long, just a 5-second pause in each position. Now the next step from this would be to go to a lower surface. So coming down towards the height of the edge of your couch. This is a great one to do on the edge of your stairs because you can gradually go to lower stairs. But I'm going to use this weight bench and it's going to be the same idea. So feet back, dropping my hips back just like I did before to where I feel stretch and maybe stretch in the back of your legs, which is okay. If your hamstrings are really tight, you may want to let your knees bend a little bit so you can get a little bit more onto your shoulders. And then from here, same thing. I'm very lightly going to pinch my elbows in, press downward into my hands, and I shift my weight from my feet back to my hands to where I end up in somewhat of this push-up position with my elbows pinched into my side. So the lower the surface, the more weight on the hands, and the more now that I'm getting pressure on my shoulder, making this a little bit more of a strength-oriented exercise as opposed to just a stretch. And then we have our typical modified, or excuse me, not modified, just regular downward dog, where same idea. I would start off in this maybe push-up position, and I would start to let my butt go back. And if you feel like it's your hamstrings that block you, you can let your knees bend a little bit. And then same concept, as I start to come forward, I would pinch my elbows into my side and keep squeezing into my side as I come back towards this push-up position. That pinch of the elbows is helpful to make sure I'm not elevating my shoulder blades forward, but keeping them depressed downward. All of these I'm looking for 10 to 20 reps. Once the higher surfaces get easier, you would drop to lower and then ultimately to the floor.